Ever since the day that this product was announced, I have been eagerly anticipating the day that I would finally get my grubby little hands on them. And finally, that day is now. This is the Monitor Audio Studio 89. Let's dive right in. I normally stick this part in at the end of all my videos, but my analytics state that most people don't stick around until the very end, so please like and subscribe. I could use the subs. It'll help me grow the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. Pretty please. The Studio series was originally released way back in 1989, and there was one model that Monitor Audio was keen to point out. It was the Studio 15. It was the only speaker of that range that was available in high gloss black with a gold dome woofer and gold dome tweeter. This new one is small. It's a compact speaker, and Monitor Audio has crammed a ton of tech into it. It retails for $2,500 US, and I hope it does really well because I'm a little bit smitten with it, and I kind of want to buy one, though maybe not exactly this model. And that's because this speaker is also in high gloss black. And high gloss black looks amazing in photos, it looks great on your shelf, but it is also a dust and fingerprint magnet, which makes it kind of a bitch to clean or keep clean, and it's really difficult to shoot in video, especially with my novice video skills. So I hope that this does extremely well so that it comes out in a matte finish of some sort, because I would be over the moon with a matte black finish or a matte anything finish of this particular speaker. This is a two-way stand mount loudspeaker, regardless of whatever I thought when I first saw this in photos. It's an MTM, or mid-tweeter mid configuration, or Diapolito configuration, and this is supposed to better aid with vertical symmetry of the speaker, I guess. I'm going to take their word for it. I'm no engineer. But also, there's more mid-bass driver surface area, which is said to improve the dynamic capability and better in-room floor and ceiling interaction. Working like a point source, the sound dispersion is large, spacious, and enveloping. And again, I'm going to just take their word for it because I'm an art major. The mid-bass driver cones are made up of some really cool tech, a CCAM outer skin, ceramic coated aluminum magnesium, and this sits over a Nomex honeycomb central core and a whole bunch of other stuff. Either way, it's super lightweight and really, really strong. The MPD3, the micro-pleated diaphragm, takes care of the high end, and it's supposed to be super fast reacting to produce a smooth, wide, and fast response. The front baffle is a rigid die-cast aluminum baffle with through-bolt driver fixings. There's a new crossover as well. The cabinet is also ported, though not ported in the way that every other bookshelf speaker is, where they're just round holes in the back or the front of the speaker. They're actually slot ports on the top and the bottom. They're called Hive 2 ports. They look badass. I hope they bring this to every other speaker because it just looks really cool. Also around the back, you get these really cool rhodium-plated speaker terminals. In-room frequency response is 48 Hz to 60 kHz. Sensitivity is 86 dB. Recommended amplifier power is 50 to 300 watts. Nominal impedance is 6 ohms with a minimum of 4.2 at 220 Hz. The port tuning frequency is 58 Hz with a crossover frequency of 2400 Hz. And these little suckers weigh 16 pounds and 12 ounces. These came shipped with a custom designed Studio 89 stand. The stand is really cool. It's got a channel in the back of the stand that you can route the speaker wire so you can hide it from your view. It's something I didn't do because I'm A/Bing these against the Quad Revela ones. I set these up on either side of my media unit at about 8 feet apart, and because they're deep, I moved them out a little bit more, but still kept them about 8 inches away from the back wall. I paired these with the Cambridge Audio CXA81 paired with the CXN V2 streamer and also the Evo 150 streaming integrated amplifier. And I also paired it with the Monitor Audio Anthera 10 subwoofer to fill in the low end. And review coming soon. It's amazing. The Studio 89 is a small looking speaker, especially when you view it from the front, and the small size is something that Monitor Audio is keen to point out in their marketing materials. Though what they don't point out readily is the fact that it's 14 inches deep, and the depth makes these speakers able to pound out tunes better than I would have thought when I first got them into place. And for my first bit of listening, I ran them without a subwoofer just to get a sense of how these fared. And the first couple tunes I played were all old favorites. Two of them were Music Soul Child's Just Be Friends and the Say How I Feel by Rianne Benson, but the remix with Slum Village and Dilla. The 89s were able to make both tracks sound full-bodied in my room, something that the similarly priced Totem Bison just weren't able to achieve. The vocals on Just Be Friends had a lot of body and a lot of richness. I really liked the way they sounded on the Studio 89s. I think if you listen to a lot of music with vocals and a lot of acoustic music, you'd really appreciate them. And I'm not just talking out of my butt. I had a friend over and they put on Work Song by Hozier. Not really my bag, but it sounded incredible on this. So yeah, that kind of music all day. But crucially, the top end is clear, precise, with tons of detail. And unlike my experience with the Silver 100, it didn't come in too hot. Like, it almost got there, but it just remained like articulate and refined and all those good words. But it didn't hurt my ears when I turned up the volume, something that I really appreciated the more I listened to the speaker. I first used the CXA81 and I was able to power the speaker rather well. But it sounded a bit lean, and the top end was a tad bright, so I immediately switched over to the Evo 150 for the rest of my listening. And with it running, with the tone controls defeated, it sounded bolder and cleaner, with less brightness. And with the tone control engaged, with the bass notched up by like 1, I loved the sound that was coming to my ears. And this again was true when I switched to Red Alert from the mighty Digital. Digital's drum and bass tracks come in a little bit hot on the treble, or they have a little bit of edge to them, but this track in particular also has a lot of spaciousness within it. The Studio 89 allows me to just crank this one up without ever having to worry about cringing at like the brightness of the treble. Though about a minute in, there is a big ass sub that comes into play, and this is where I felt like I needed a subwoofer to kind of capture that. And so I flipped on the Anthra 10 sub with a crossover about 75, 80 hertz, and immediately all that low end energy was there. It sounded amazing. And I found myself just leaving the sub on once I got it into play because it sounded so full and I enjoyed it more. I'll be honest. With the sub turned on, I dropped Etherwood Souvenirs remixed by Ulterior Motive. I love the way these guys program drums, but this song in particular just hits really hard. The bass slams, the drums are tight, the vocal is sweet, and it just sounded great on this system. So I decided to keep the bass theme a little bit longer, and I ran Scuba's Vulpine remix of Emika's Drop the Other, I guess a dubstep tune from back in the day. And this one in particular, it has different layers of bass. There's like the bass that it starts with, and then there's the gritty texture bass that kind of LFOs in over top of the mid bass. And then when it drops, the sub kicks in, and oh my God. With the Anthra 10 dialed in at about 19%, with the slope set to music, paired with the Evo 150 tone controls completely disabled, I absolutely love the way this sounds. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I'm all of a sudden hearing details that I didn't hear before. What I will tell you is I'm just enjoying myself more than I thought I would have. And these speakers do a good job of disappearing into the background. So much so that I decided to break out another pair of speakers, the Quad Revela 1s, to see how they compared against these. And I did this because I thought the Revela 1s did a remarkable job of disappearing into the background. And wouldn't you know it, I really couldn't tell a difference between which one disappeared more. But here's the curious thing. I felt like the Revela 1s had a bit more of an edge on top over the Studio 89s, which was surprising because I didn't feel like the Revela 1s were edgy at all. Though I did compare the Revela 1s against the B&W 706 speakers, so maybe the 706s are just a little bit brighter overall in comparison to everything. I would need to hear that back though just to properly compare. But then the other one is that the mid-bass driver on the Revela 1 is bigger, and I didn't feel like the Revela 1s were bigger in sound than the Studio 89, so I guess that increased surface area of having two 4¼ inch drivers versus one, I think it's a 6½ inch driver on the Revela 1s, near as made not much of a difference. So, cool. Admittedly, I was more than a little skeptical on this MTM driver configuration. Like, how can two smaller drivers really compete against one larger one? But when I directly compared it against the Quad Revela ones, I didn't do any measurements, but it sounded, in my room at least, equally as large. And then when I compared it against smaller speakers with smaller drivers, the QQ 65010 or the Totem Loon over there, it sounded way bigger. It was more spacious in my room. It filled my room with more sound. Vocals sounded more rich. Bass dug a little deeper with the subwoofer turned off. It was just an overall better sound, better speaker in my room. If you have a chance, go and listen to the speaker. I think it sounds awesome. And if you have deep pockets, go and buy a pair. Help it do really well so that in the future they release a matte version and then I will buy some.